Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond 2020, the event industry vlog that is all about what is happening to the event industry because of this global pandemic. And most importantly, what do we see in the future for the event industry? How is this going to shape and change it? And how are we going to come back better than ever? And today I get to be joined by the illustrious Mr. Jeff Bray. Thanks so much for joining me today, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking me to do it. I'm happy to do it.
So, Jeff, fill us in a little bit. I know you're based out. I want to say that you're based out of Toronto because for someone who doesn't live in Toronto, everything out where you are is just Toronto. But I know that you're not actually in Toronto. Tell us a little bit about where exactly you're situated. What's your give us a 30-second overview of who Jeff Bray is.
Sure, I think me being in Toronto is like you being in Winnipeg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're a nice town out here. I come from a little town called Port Hope, which is about an hour outside of Toronto, but also on Lake Ontario. Charming, kind of what some people consider an arts community. And I've been in the events business for 5 years. I'll use business lightly. We're a not-for-profit arts organization, and we've been producing what's called Cultivate Festival since 2015. And I've been teaching in the event management postgraduate program at Centennial College for about a year and a half now as well. That's the 30 seconds.
Hey, nice. Question. Between Toronto and Port Hope, are there buildings or is there fields?
Oh yeah, buildings. I
Oh,
mean, we're at the beginning of the fields, I would say. But I mean, the GTA spreads a long way.
oh.
And then as things start opening up a little bit, that's kind of where Port Hope begins. But it's all going to be buildings soon enough.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Between Steinbach and Winnipeg, there's just like farm.
Yeah, yeah. There's what they call rural here is different than rural there, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have two wards in Port Hope. Urban, they call urban
Okay.
ward, what's south of the 401 between the major highway and the lake. And then
Okay.
they call rural what's north of that. And there's nothing urban about Port Hope, but they've they gotta define us somehow, I guess.
Interesting. And like something else I learned about that part of Ontario is like this whole butter tart thing. Like butter tarts are really important to your part of Canada. Is that what I'm understanding right?
I don't know about how important they are. I guess they're important to some people, and I think we are home to like the largest self-guided butter tart tour. So our region is they do take it seriously. I don't think it originated here.
Mm.
The butter tart. Did you know about the butter tart before we had that conversation?
Yeah, we have butter tarts in here. It's like a little pastry thing and it's filled with raisins and some
Yeah.
syrupy
No,
stuff.
the good ones aren't filled with raisins.
Yeah.
But you're right. But some people had never heard of it. But it's a pretty ubiquitous Canadian dessert. But here they kind of celebrate it. So it's a big kind of, or it was meant to be a big tourist kind of attraction. And you can like get an app and roll around to like 70 different locations and try your luck at eating 70 butter tarts, which would probably put you under.
The things you learn about this big, beautiful country of ours, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Jeff, you've been involved with events for a long time now. What was your what when you were doing events pre-COVID? Like, what did that look like? You had your one festival that you were involved in managing. Like, give us a snapshot of what events meant to you pre-COVID.
Yeah, I mean, the festival was the event. We tried things and did things, and on some level, I came from events background. I was in the restaurant industry before that, and every night was like an event in some way. You're acting every night, and it's had a start and it had a finish, and so it was kind of a natural transition. But the festival has been the event.
Mm.
And yeah, we founded it in 2015, and it started as a little idea of a way to celebrate local food and kind of regional culture and kind of accent that with some live music on a level that's kind of never been seen here before. And we started as a 1 day festival, something small, with myself, my wife, and a good friend of ours, kind of as the founders and hard workers of it. Um, and worked really well that first year. We seeked out a demographic that we weren't sure existed in our community, but we were hopeful for. We'd never seen them at events in town before, but we put this thing on and people came out, and it was clear to us that there was a market for it, and an appetite for it, which was a real good kind of proof of concept. It was an expensive test, but it proved we were on the right track. And
Hmm.
it went so well the first year that we decided to kind of like scale up a little bit. Went from 1 day to 3 days, and that worked fairly well. By 2017, we won the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario award for best culinary event. And in 2019, we changed our kind of focus from being a culinary event to like an arts organization doing, I guess focusing on live music, but we always have that kind of um, local food vibe about us.
Hmm.
So in 5 years we did that, and any other events we did around that were like small fundraising events, and we tried a lot of stuff, but the festival is kind of it's the anchor. And every year it became my job to be festival director, and that basically meant doing most things, and the things you didn't do you kind of coordinated,
Hmm.
which is a tough it's a big job, especially in a not-for-profit organization, um, in the way that it didn't always pay. But we were having so much fun doing it that didn't matter too much. We're 5 years in now, missed the sixth last year, might miss the seventh, and we continue to work, and we have different feelings on that now. But we're also having different strategies on how to kind of solve that problem. And we've come a long way in I guess just establishing ourselves as something real. We were appreciated from day one, but 5 years in, we've got I guess some good quality street cred.
Hmm. Awesome. That's wonderful. And what time of year would that take place in?
Yeah, end of September. It's usually the fourth weekend of September, which is chosen because of harvest season. So I mean, chosen for a couple reasons. One, the music festival kind of landscape is heavily summertime, and any weekend was basically chosen. So this weekend wasn't, and we like the idea that it might be a little bit cooler. We like the idea that there would be an abundance of food to kind of to celebrate. So that weekend always made great sense for us, and within the community it had become available because a previous festival, a jazz festival, decided they didn't want that weekend anymore because it was really rainy. Every year it was rainy for them, and they moved 2 weeks earlier, and the rain followed them, and we had 5 years straight of not a drop of rain.
Shoot.
Yeah,
Well, I don't
worked for
know.
us.
Like rainy jazz. I think there's a place for that if you're
There's
in.
probably yeah, but they just started putting tents up everywhere, and
Yeah,
yeah,
for
they
real.
had bad luck. I feel for them, but I'm happy for us.
No kidding. Well, and like how gratifying to find that success when you're like situated in like a kind of an artsy community, right? To
Hmm.
feel that kind of support and to land that way. That sounds, yeah, that sounds yeah, really gratifying to just to be able to have your feet land in some good soil, sounds like.
We knew it was important for us coming back here and living here. We did live in Toronto. My wife lived in Toronto for a few years, and other big cities, and I lived here most of my life, but lived in Toronto with her for 2 years before we moved back. And once we got here, it was important for us to be doing something that kind of stepped it up a little bit, and also to provide something for our community, and also with kids in mind in the future, to be able to do something that they'd be proud of as well. So we're lucky it it was received so well,
Yeah.
but it was definitely strategic as well.
Mhm. Interesting. Awesome. So then, so that's things are running well. You're getting ready for your sixth kick at the can, and things probably didn't work out according to plan. What did 2020 look like for you? Were you in the middle of everything? Were you still kind of gearing up for stuff? How did COVID impact that year?
Well, we were being the tail end of September. We were really on the outside of any of that, any of the festivals that were making their plans. And truthfully, March, April, May, we were like, this could happen. We
Hmm.
believed it could happen. We're not a big festival. The most people we've ever had in the space is probably 1,000. We're not talking 15,000 people. We weren't going to have to recreate anything. So we really believed it could happen, and we established a deadline for ourselves of July 1st to say yay or nay. And even up to that point, we're like, we might be able to do something. There might be 200 people we're allowed to meet outdoors, and we could do something small. But ultimately, we decided not to. So in 2019, we actually it was the first year we became incorporated as an arts organization. And the years before that, we were incubated by a local charity. So like this 2020 was kind of going to be it was going to be a breakout year. It was our first year operating independently. It was our first year to have access to arts grants, and we were coming off easily our most successful festival. So we were pretty excited about 2020, and spent a lot of time at like, how do we do something that isn't the full festival, to kind of keep going and keep the what's the word I'm looking for, just kind of like, keep the momentum rolling. But nothing really hit. And to be completely honest, what I consider to be the most important part about our event is the atmosphere,
Mm.
and that coming together, and the fact that it's accessible to a lot of people. And that's hard to recreate, and I personally had very little interest in doing it virtually.
Mm.
And I hopeful that we just miss one, and kind of carry on. We did some stuff over festival weekend to keep people engaged, and definitely started a few or one new project, in terms of like marketing the festival and the organization, throughout from I think April on. um, but in terms of actual execution of the event, yeah, we were optimistic for a long time, but once we kind of realized it wasn't going to happen, we were able to kind of shut our minds down, and look forward to 2021.
Mhm.
And even here we are now. I know it's called Beyond 2020, but we might be looking beyond 2021. Um, and even though we're in the fall, we're in that area, right, where people are talking about that could be the time when we're able to get back out there, and we'll have vaccinations out, and so we're kind of hanging around wondering what to do, and wondering if it's the right decision to make a decision now that, makes it clear what we are going to do, even if it is on a smaller stage. But lots of hypotheticals,
Uh,
lots of wishful thinking, but um, a lot of unanswered questions, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, yeah, for real. I know, just today on Facebook, I shared a photo from a year ago. It was me and my production team. We were having our celebratory dinner to celebrate a good 2019. And you know what? We've got some really exciting stuff planned for 2020. And this was just like the time of formulating it, or formalizing it. And we're just so naive, because who could
Yeah,
predict that that is what would be happening
yeah,
1
hard
year
to
ago,
believe it's been a year
right?
of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's great that you're also, because you're in the fall, you weren't in that kind of like, ooh, we got to make a decision right now. There's so much unknown, as this just comes crashing in on us, right? So,
Big time. There's a
yeah.
lot of my peers out there, I'm thinking about them having a 15,000 person festival in the first weekend of July. And you're like, these people they had lots of, deposits paid,
Mhm.
money they're never going to get back. And we were on the late end, and we had nothing down. we had a couple of contracts in place, had paid no deposits, and were able to, get out scot free. So there was a real silver lining there.
Yeah.
But some people certainly didn't have that, and it's amazing they managed to stay. They're like older organizations, and they're more well established, and can take the hit a little bit more, but they've also remained really optimistic, which is really nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Eh? So things are up in the air regarding the future right now. Like, what are some of the strategies that you're using when you think about the future? What are some of those either alternatives to having the live festival that you're used to having, that you're wanting to having, and what goes into some of your decision making processes when it comes to the future?
Yeah, truth be told, we don't have a strategy at this point. We don't we haven't had a lot of collective conversation with the board. We're coming off the holidays, and we're in the middle of a lockdown, so of course that doesn't help much. But it still feels kind of early. In the meantime, what 2020 was about was kind of strengthening our organization, and kind of attracting a few more people to what we do. So we started writing a weekly community newsletter every each week to just kind of say what's going on, as we were kind of the trusted source to say this is where you can go get safe takeaway food. This place is open, and you can book your registration here to go and see the goats at whatever. Like, we became this kind of newsletter that said, hey, we're a festival, we care about community, we're missing what we can do, but this is how we can be what we are to you every week. And we're sending it out to just under 2,000 people a week. And in 2020, from April on, we sent about 60,000 emails, which is really quite awesome.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of that. Proud of that as like a new tool for us to strengthen the organization, to create more interest in what we do. And also, it will become another way to attract sponsors, and we can monetize it for sure. So that's been good. And we also, like, as I mentioned, our first year being eligible for arts grants, we applied for like 6 different arts grants, which was great. Well, it's tedious, but we're on a track now. Hopefully, we haven't received any accepted applications, or the opposite, which is great. But we're on the right track, and we feel really good about the fact that that ball's rolling, because in the arts world it's very complicated to as I mentioned, to get people paid, but there are some really amazing arts organizations, granting organizations, who can really help that. So if we get into some of these streams, we eventually qualify ourselves for core funding, which would really be kind of I guess the pinnacle, to be able to pay somebody to do the work all year round and make sure we're executing at a high level all the time.
Right.
So 2020 was good for that. It wasn't the work that I get excited about doing, but it was useful, and I'm hopeful now that we'll see those things carry over into 2021. And if we get some of that stuff and we have to execute something virtually or be creative around the weekend of, because we still can't get together, then that'll make it a lot easier than doing it on no budget. So
Mhm.
2020 was different and complicated, but plenty of good kind of good foundation built for us.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you made the most of it, and you're ready to roll with the punches and do what you can for this year coming up. At least if 2020 was all new territory for us, then 2021, like it's not going to be completely unfamiliar, right? Like we've seen this routine once before. It'll be variants, it'll be a little bit different, but at least we have an idea of what lockdown looks like, what reduced capacity looks like, what social distancing looks like, right? Whereas this time a year ago, it was all Greek to us.
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I still have very little interest myself in executing virtual events.
Mm,
Some things cross my mind, and I play with it. But for me, what I love about this industry is that personal connection. And it'd be different if I was running conferences or I was running meetings or who like. There's a number of things that transfer well to virtual. But I don't think what we do does.
mm,
But there's still a lot to be taken from it. Like we should have had best practices for hygiene. Just making sure everybody's feeling good. This is going to take us to being like a festival that primarily dealt in cash, which is crazy and unsafe and to be honest, like when you deal in cash, you make less. Like people
mm,
spend more when they can tap their card than they do when they're using cash.
mm,
So this is going to take us there, and yeah, we have to think about things differently, and that's good. And every industry, I'm sure, benefited on some level from a shakeup and like a bit of a reset button. And I teach in events management. I don't teach in festival management.
mm,
It's cool to see what people are doing in virtual and hybrid. Um, I think that we, on some level, next year or whenever we get to produce a live festival again, will incorporate some of that, some of that um, live production, digital production. And yeah, it's great to like learn about these things and put some more skills in the toolbox or whatever they say.
mm.
um yeah, there's definite, it's been a year of, if you can find them, silver linings for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This Saturday, we're running our first virtual murder mystery event. Like in the past, we've done an annual. We call it what, ugh, mix, mingle, and murder. Right? We got a dozen actors. We got like 100 people out, and all the actors have a little piece of the plot. And the audience, they just go around and they hear the conversations and they interact with the actors, trying to piece together this murder. And so this will be our first attempt at doing it virtually using breakout rooms. And okay, so for me, that interaction is so important to
Mhm.
performance, that you feel engaged, that you aren't just
Yeah,
passively sitting, right? So yeah, it's not ideal, but we're eking out something, right?
totally.
We're making something work that is going to somehow meet some of our core tenets, right? But yeah, it's not going to be the same, but let's see what kind of tools we get in the belt as a result, and then fly with it and see how we can apply those down the road to make something that's even better.
Totally. And if you don't try, you don't know. And in your case, you come out the other end being able to execute live murder mystery again, and you have a product that you can sell to people online and reach a larger audience. That's a huge benefit, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and you don't know until you try. And when you do try, even if you figure out it doesn't work, you're definitely learning a lot of new skills along the way.
Oh, so when we do it live, then we also have like a little kiosk where the actors will like stop by so that people can still attend it virtually. If you can't make it out, that's okay. You pay less
Yeah,
money. And now you just zoom in or you click in with this live stream, and like actors will come by, like, oh, I'm going to chat with you. And yeah, you can still try and figure out the mystery.
there you
I
go.
like it. I like it. That's exactly it, right? That is exactly it, Jeff. Jeff, where can we find out more information about you, about your festival? If we want to connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, where do we find you?
Yeah, the festival website is cultivatefestival.ca. Truth be told, there's not a lot to be found there right now, but you can kind of get the feel of what the festival has to offer. As for me, I'm on a social media break right now, which is amazing. Deleted Facebook and Instagram from my phone, and I've been accomplishing more as a result, which is really
Mm.
great. But you can still find me on those things. I don't even know how. You can probably look up Jeffrey with an REY, Allen, ALAN, Bray on most of those things and find me. I tend to use my whole name, but
Mm.
or email me at info@cultivatefestival.ca.
Jeff, thanks so much for taking some time, connecting with me, sharing a little bit about the hope that you see down the road. And here's hoping for a 2021 that utilizes the skills and the hard knocks that we gained over the past year to make something even better, right?
Amen, brother.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Alan.